what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House suspend the rules and pass the bill S-222, the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act of 2025.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
Senate 222, an act to amend the Richard B. Russell National School Lunch Act to allow schools that participate in the school lunch program to serve whole milk and for other purposes.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of a bill near and dear to my heart, the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act. My legislation will allow for unflavored and flavored milk and reduced fat or 2% milk to be offered in school cafeterias, giving our students the option to choose the milk that they want to drink. Milk is an essential building block for a well-rounded and balanced diet, offering 13 essential nutrients and numerous health benefits. Unfortunately, out-of-touch and outdated federal regulations have imposed restrictions on the types of milk students have access to in school meals. While the Healthy, Hunger-Free Kids Act's intention to reduce childhood obesity was good, its impacts to attack whole milk have been misguided and devastating over the 15 years since its passage, resulting in the loss of an entire generation of milk drinkers. It's always been a myth that whole milk caused weight gain. The beverage is 97% fat-free and is the least processed type of milk. Common sense tells us that whole milk is not the culprit of childhood obesity. Instead, milk is the #1 source of protein for kids aged 2 to 11. Milk is also the top source of calcium, potassium, phosphorus, and vitamin D for children aged 2 to 18. Medical research has proven that whole milk has several health benefits, such as strong bone density, a healthier immune system, reduced cardiovascular risk, lowered blood pressure, reduced hunger craving, reduced type 2 diabetes risk, and increased sleep quality. Additionally, children are not consuming the amount of dairy recommended by the Dietary Guidelines for Americans and are not getting these important benefits and nutrients. The Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee reported that over 2/3 of school-aged children fail to meet the recommended levels of dairy. Rather than drinking milk they didn't like, students are throwing it away and losing out on the 21 essential minerals and 13 vitamins necessary for healthy development. School nutrition programs provide critical access to the nutrients growing children need, including those provided by milk. In fact, school meals provide 77% of the total daily milk consumption for lower-income children ages 5 to 18. In addition, it's also important to remember this legislation does not require any student to drink or any school to serve whole milk. Rather, this legislation simply gives schools the flexibility to serve a broader variety of milk in the school lunchroom. Dairy farmers in Pennsylvania's 15th Congressional District and across our country work hard every day to produce nutritious milk for our families and communities. Now, I'm proud to lead this legislation that would allow schools to serve flavored and unflavored whole and reduced fat milk in school cafeterias. Today, we will restore students access to a wide variety of milk options, ensuring students have the necessary nutrients to learn and to grow. And I encourage all of my colleagues to support this legislation, and I reserve the balance of my time.
I rise today in support of S-222, the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act of 2025. For nearly 80 years, the National School Lunch Program has provided low-cost or free lunches to children each school day. We know that healthy diets can improve student success both in and out of the classroom. Whole milk is a nutrient-rich food, and its higher fat content allows children to stay fuller longer. Unfortunately, misconceptions about certain types of fat or calories have prevented schools from offering whole milk as an option to our children. The bill gives us a chance to ensure that children have access to nutritional milk options they want to drink. Some children struggle to consume enough of the right calories to support healthy growth and stay energized throughout the entire school day. For some, school meals may be the only meals they receive that day. This notion that whole milk consumption is linked to childhood obesity is deeply flawed. In fact, studies suggest that higher cow milk fat intake is associated with a lower risk of childhood obesity. While it is important to limit fatty, sugary, and highly processed foods, Whole milk does not fit into this category. In fact, many school children are at risk of dairy underconsumption, not overconsumption. Whole milk provides critical nutrition for growing minds. We need to follow the science and pass the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
I yield to the gentleman from California, the chairman of the Early Childhood, Elementary, and Secondary Education Subcommittee, Mr. Kiley, for 2 minutes.
Gentleman is recognized for 2 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, it is frankly crazy that for 20 million kids who rely on free and reduced lunch, they are banned from drinking whole milk as a matter of federal law. Whatever basis in science or public health might have ever backed this up has long since been debunked, so I'm glad that we are finally correcting this error today. So why should kids have access to whole milk at school? Well, at least 3 reasons. Number 1 is nutrition. The latest science shows that whole milk actually is probably better for you nutritionally than other kinds of milk because it is less processed. And as for saturated fats, science shows that the body processes dairy fats different than other kinds of fats. The second reason is satiation. Whole milk is simply more filling, which for a program that's designed to make sure kids don't go hungry, that might be a relevant consideration. Moreover, when kids are not full from their lunch, then they might be more inclined to grab things that are a lot less healthy. And the third is taste. A lot of kids simply hate the taste of skim milk, and I don't blame them. I hate it too. I love the taste of whole milk. And and what's particularly crazy is that while schools can't serve whole milk, they are allowed to serve sugary, strawberry and chocolate milks, which are a lot worse for kids. So I know this might not seem like the paramount issue facing the Republic at this moment, but I will say that it touches upon 2 important issues. The first is health in this country, because one of the biggest drivers of healthcare costs and of poor public health outcomes is obesity that begins in childhood that has continued to rise, the rates have, since this ban on whole milk went into effect, and it now constitutes over 20%. And the second issue is trust in government. Our public health establishment has given a lot of very bad advice in the past. For example, downplaying the risk of sugar. And even more than that, when kids are seeing the government do stupid and arbitrary things like tell them they can't have whole milk, I'm not sure how we're supposed to foster the trust in government on which democracy depends. This is a good bill. I hope we pass it overwhelmingly today, and I yield back.
Mr. Speaker, pleased to recognize the gentleman from Minnesota, the chair of the Nutrition Subcommittee, Mr. Finstead, for 2 minutes.
Gentleman is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the gentleman from Pennsylvania for yielding. I rise today in support of S222, the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act, which I was proud to help introduce alongside Chairman Thompson. As a 4th-generation farmer raising the 5th generation, I know firsthand the importance of ensuring families have access to healthy and nutritious milk products. As a father of 7, my wife and I have purchased our fair share of milk on trips to the grocery store. This legislation has been in the making for a long time, and it is past due that we send it to the President's desk and make this the law of the land. Moving forward, every child across southern Minnesota and the rest of the nation will have access to whole and 2% milk products when they go through the school lunch line. Moreover, this legislation will support our dairy farmers in the rural communities they call home. Farming is one of the most honorable and noble professions this country has to offer, and southern Minnesota is the home to some of the best dairy farmers and manufacturers in the world. This legislation is a win-win for school-aged children and dairy farmers across this country. I am proud that we now, once again, can say loudly, milk, it does a body good. I encourage my colleagues to support this important legislation, and I yield back.
Gentleman is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Speaker. I rise today in full support of the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act of 2025. For over 10 years, children in the schools across our country have been deprived of the many benefits of whole milk, and the dietary guidelines for Americans has reported that nearly 90% of Americans do not meet their daily dairy intake recommendations. This overwhelmingly bipartisan legislation brings common sense back to how we help the next generation stay healthy, putting vitamin D and calcium-rich whole milk in front of millions of children nationwide. However, Mr. Speaker, children are not the only ones who stand to benefit from this legislation. American dairy farmers produce and process some of the highest quality products in the world. And with school milk accounting for around 8% of fluid milk demand, this legislation allows our dairy farmers to have their products go right back into the communities from where they were produced. I want to thank my colleagues in both chambers on both sides of the aisle for helping bring this nutritious, high-quality milk back into our schools, and for bringing back common sense into how we keep Americans healthy. Mr. Speaker, thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the gentleman for yielding. Today I rise in support of the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act. Milk has long been a cornerstone of children's diets in this country. It provides high-quality protein, calcium, vitamin D, and other essential nutrients that growing bodies and young minds need to thrive. For many kids, milk is the most reliable source of vital nutrients they receive. This legislation is about common sense and choice. Whole and reduced-fat milk are safe and nutritious options that many children prefer and are more likely to drink. When kids enjoy milk, they're more likely to drink it and get the nutrition it offers instead of pouring it down the drain. The Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act supports healthier kids and gives schools the flexibility to meet students where they are, allowing them to nurture healthy habits that will last a lifetime. It also supports our dairy farmers by allowing them more ways to meaningfully participate in healthy school lunch programs. Let's help our children grow strong and healthy. I thank the chairman for his leadership on this legislation, and I urge all my colleagues to support it. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's now a great honor to yield to the gentleman and physician from Pennsylvania, Mr. Joyce, for 2 minutes.
Gentleman is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act of 2025. Whole milk needs to be offered in schools as a part of a healthy kid's diet. This Congress, I am proud to be an original co-sponsor of the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act to bring whole milk back into schools. As a doctor, I recognize that as a source of nutrition, whole milk provides 13 key nutrients that are vital to bone development, brain development, and muscle development, all important to a growing child. Obama-era policies that banned whole milk in schools have caused students to turn to highly caffeinated, sugary drinks rather than healthy whole milk and other dairy products that are crucial to a child's development. Under current law, schools are only permitted to offer fat-free or low-fat milk. The Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act of 2025 will allow schools to offer students a variety of healthy choices that include whole milk. We must give our kids healthy options in schools, and by allowing whole milk to be offered as a part of school lunches, this legislation will support kids' development while encouraging young students to make healthy choices. I urge all of my colleagues to support this legislation. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'm grateful to be a co-sponsor of the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act. Remember when I was a child, and I think the average high school student weighed, 20 or 30 pounds less than they do today, and we had nothing but whole milk. Whole milk was distributed for lunch to all the children. We were taught from first or second grade on calcium, vitamin A, potassium, magnesium, zinc, all the nutrients that are necessary in whole milk, which is, I think, one of the reasons God gave us a body in which whole milk clearly tastes better than 2% milk and way better than skim milk. So I urge my colleagues to strike a blow for freedom, to bring the healthiness of our children back to what it was 50 years ago, and pass the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act.
Is recognized to close.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself the balance of my time.
Gentleman's recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I have proudly led this charge to restore whole milk and school meal programs for the last decade. And I'm grateful to those who played a role in this effort, including the House Education Workforce Committee Chairman Tim Walberg, former Chairwoman Virginia Fox, my co-lead, Congresswoman Kim Schreier, who is a pediatrician, my Senate companion colleagues, Senators Roger Marshall, Peter Welch, Dave McCormick, and John Fetterman, my staff, my personal office, and on the House Agriculture Committee who have worked tirelessly to advance this bill every step of the way, especially my legislative director, Faith Tuttle, the National Milk Producers Federation, and in particular, Paul Bleiberg, the International Dairy Food Association, the Farm Bureau, the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau, and the most dedicated grassroots movement in America, 97 Milk, including the leadership of Bernie Morrissey and Sherry Bunting, Nelson Troutman, Krista Byler, Christine Ebersole, Dr. Edward Silverman, and a host of parents and dairy farmers. Thank you. Thank you to each and every one of these individuals who put their mark on this bill in a meaningful way. I encourage all of my colleagues to support this legislation and drink whole milk. Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Pennsylvania yields. The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass Senate 222? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.